The police report didn't describe me. It described my brother. Violent, unstable, dangerous. The exact words my parents had used for me my entire life. That was the moment everything broke, because it meant one thing. They didn't misunderstand me. They reassigned him. And I had been living inside his reputation ever since. It wasn't hidden well. That's the disturbing part. Not locked, not buried, just misplaced. Like they believed time would do the hiding for them. My aunt had asked me to help clean out her house after she downsized. Boxes everywhere. Paperwork stacked in uneven piles. Things no one cared enough about to organize properly. That's where I found it. A beige folder. My brother's name written across the top. Evan. I almost ignored it. Because in my family, Evan's problems were never written down. They were softened, explained, excused, but never documented. So I opened it. The first page was a formal incident report. School letterhead. Detailed, precise, objective. It described a violent outburst, physical aggression, threats, property damage, language that leaves no room for interpretation, the kind of report that changes how institutions treat you, the kind of report that follows you, the kind of report I had been told belonged to me, but it didn't. It belonged to him. That's where the real damage started. A counseling note. My mother's handwriting. Neat. Controlled. Calculated. One sentence circled. If anyone has to appear unstable, it should remain with Claire. Evan cannot afford a permanent record. I didn't react immediately. That's what shock does when it's too precise. It doesn't explode. It freezes. Because suddenly, everything makes sense at once. I wasn't the problem child. I was the solution. The moment you see truth clearly, your past doesn't fade in slowly. It snaps into place. Every moment I'd question myself, every time I thought I overreacted, every time I believed I was too much, reassembled. I was 9. Evan was 11. He threw a glass across the kitchen. It shattered against the cabinet next to me. I remember the sound. I remember freezing. I remember my mother running in. I remember what she said, not to him, to me. Claire, stop provoking your brother. For years, I believed that. Believed I had caused it. Believed I had done something wrong. But sitting there with that file, I remembered something else. He wasn't angry at me. He was angry because he got caught stealing money. I just happened to be in the room. That's how it worked. Not one big lie. Hundreds of small ones. Redirect, reframe, repeat, until the version of you they created felt more real than the one you lived. It wasn't just about protecting Evan. It was about maintaining balance. Because if Evan became the unstable one, everything collapsed. My parents' image, their control, their decisions, so they moved the weight. From him to me. I asked myself something I had never asked before. Not, what's wrong with me? But, what did they need me to be? My aunt saw me reading. She didn't ask what it was. That told me everything. She already knew. That's the kind of silence that confirms more than any explanation. I asked her one question. What else is there? She hesitated, then brought another file. Larger, older, worse. School notes, therapist summaries, behavioral observations. Every single one referencing the same thing. Claire shows signs of emotional instability, but attached to those were descriptions of incidents, real incidents, not involving me, Evan. That was the part I didn't expect. They didn't erase evidence. They reassigned it, took real behavior, real events, real problems, and attached them to me. The files went back years. Consistent, aligned, structured. This wasn't reactive parenting. This was maintenance, narrative maintenance, not explosive anger, something colder, clearer. Because sadness asks, why? Anger asks, what now? Then I found the letter, the one I had already lived through, the one that changed everything, rejected. At the time, I thought I wasn't good enough. That was easier to accept. But the attached communication proved something else. He didn't just support the narrative. He used it. He wrote to the board, explained my history, warned them, positioned me as a risk, not because he believed it, because he needed it to remain true. Buried in his message was one line. She has struggled with emotional control for years. We would not want the program to be blindsided. That was it. That one sentence closed a door I never understood had been taken from me. It wasn't just the scholarship. It was the direction, the path, the version of my life that never happened. Because someone rewrote who I was before I had the chance to prove it myself. That was the moment everything changed. Not emotionally, strategically. Because once you understand the system, you stop reacting to it. You start dismantling it. That night, I didn't confront anyone. I didn't call. I didn't react. I did something else. I went home, opened my laptop, and logged into an email account my mother thought no one would ever check again. What I found there proved something worse than lies. They didn't just protect my brother, they coordinated it. The first email I opened wasn't about me. It was about my brother, and my mother wasn't denying what he did. She was asking how to move it onto me. It took less than 10 seconds to log in. That's what made it worse. No security, no protection. Just an old account my mother had used for years and forgotten. Or maybe she didn't forget. Maybe she just believed I would never look, that I would stay exactly where she placed me, inside the version of myself she created. Subject line: follow-up, behavioral concern, Evan. That alone was enough, because growing up, no one ever followed up on Evan. They smoothed him out, explained him away, protected him, but here it was, written, documented, real. The counselor described everything clearly: aggression, escalation, risk to other students, recommendation for evaluation, intervention, the kind of language that forces action, unless someone interferes. My mother didn't deny a single word. She didn't argue, didn't defend him. She redirected, line by line, controlled, strategic. I think there may be some confusion, she wrote. Claire has always been the more emotionally reactive child. There it was, the beginning of everything. Not a misunderstanding, a replacement. That's the part that broke something deeper. It wasn't one message. It was dozens, across years, across teachers, across schools, always the same pattern. This wasn't parenting. This was management, narrative management, reputation engineering, and I was the product. Further down the thread, my father joined. Not emotional, not defensive, precise. He edited language, suggested phrasing, adjusted tone. Maybe we should emphasize consistency, he wrote. If Claire's emotional pattern is clearly established, it will make everything easier to understand. Easier. That word. Because to them, this wasn't about truth. It was about control. They didn't panic when Evan caused problems. They adapted. And the adaptation was always the same. Move the problem. Onto me. I almost didn't open it. Because part of me already knew. But I did. It wasn't just my father. It was both of them. Coordinating. Carefully. Strategically. How much should we say? My mother asked. My father responded, enough to protect Evan. That sentence. Again. repeated, confirmed, final. They didn't misunderstand my potential. They saw it clearly and chose to stop it. It wasn't just opportunity, it was escape from them, from the narrative, from the system they built. And they knew it. My father wrote, "If she leaves now, we lose control of the situation." Lose control. That's what it was always about. Not protecting the family, controlling it. Then I found something worse. Not emotional, financial, conversations with advisors, estate planning, trust discussions, language I had never seen before. Because I was never meant to. My name appeared, but not as a priority, as a risk, as a liability, as someone who needed to be managed. Assets, properties, investments, all structured around one assumption: I couldn't be trusted. Because of the story they created. They didn't just lie about my past. They used that lie to control my future. That's when it stopped being personal. Because this wasn't about hurt feelings. This was about opportunity stolen, reputation, engineered future, manipulated. I closed the laptop slowly, not because I was overwhelmed, because I understood everything now. I didn't need to defend myself. I didn't need to explain anything. I had something stronger: proof, structure, leverage. I wrote one sentence in my notes. Don't confront. Collapse the system. The next morning, I contacted someone from my past, someone who had seen the truth before it was rewritten, and what she told me proved something even worse. My parents weren't the only ones who knew. The first adult I spoke to didn't say, "I'm surprised." She said, "I always knew something wasn't right." Not wrong, not confused, not misinterpreted. Right. Which meant one thing. I wasn't the only one who saw the truth. I was just the only one forced to live inside the lie. Her name was Ms. Harper, middle school counselor, the one who wrote most of the early reports, the ones my parents rewrote, the ones that turned me into someone I wasn't. I didn't expect her to remember me. It had been years. Different students, different cases, different lives. But the moment I said my name, she went quiet. "Claire?" she said, not questioning, confirming. Then, "Oh, I remember." Not warmly, not casually, carefully. "I need to ask you something," I said. Was I the problem? Silence. Then, "No." Just one word, but it carried years of damage inside it. "There were concerns about your brother," she continued. "Multiple. Serious. And every time we tried to escalate," she stopped. "Your parents pushed back. School systems are designed to protect, to escalate risk, to intervene early, unless someone interferes. And my parents didn't just interfere. They redirected. He should have been evaluated," she said, "monitored, possibly removed from certain environments." "Why wasn't he?" I asked. She didn't hesitate this time. "Because your parents made you the focus." "I always thought it didn't make sense," she added. "You were quiet. Observant. Careful. Not unstable. Not emotional. Not difficult. Everything I had been told I wasn't. It's strange how validation feels when it comes too late. It doesn't feel like relief. It feels like loss. Because you realize how much time was spent fighting something that was never true. The second call was harder. Because therapists are trained to be careful, to protect, to avoid crossing lines. But when I showed her the documents, she didn't hide it. "I wasn't treating the right child," she said. Direct, clear, final. "You were stable," she continued, "more than most children in that situation." "Then why?" "Because you could handle it." That sentence hit differently. Because it wasn't about misunderstanding. It was about selection. I wasn't chosen because I was weak. I was chosen because I was strong enough to carry it. Every decision, every label, every shift wasn't random. It was efficient. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't stay hidden forever. It leaks. My sister called. Casual tone, forced calm. He's having a rough time again. Again. Always again. Work issues, anger, conflicts. Nothing new, just older, more visible, less controllable. A week later, I didn't need documents. I didn't need reports. I saw it. Live. We were at dinner. Normal setting, normal conversation, until it wasn't. It started small. A comment, a disagreement, then the change, the one I remembered from childhood. Volume increased, body language changed, control disappeared, and this time, I didn't react, I didn't speak, I didn't move, so there was no version of me to attach it to. My sister froze, my mother didn't speak, my father didn't interrupt, because now, there was nothing to redirect. Evan threw something, not at me, at the wall, but it didn't matter. Because now, everyone saw. After it ended, no one said anything, because there was no explanation left. My mother looked at me, just for a second, and I saw it. Not guilt, not regret, fear, because the system only works as long as the narrative holds, and the narrative had just broken. For the first time in my life, I wasn't defending myself. They were recalculating. I didn't need to convince anyone anymore. Reality was doing it for me. That night, I didn't confront them. I didn't react. I moved forward, because now I had everything. Documentation, witnesses, pattern, present-day confirmation. All I needed was structure. The next morning, my lawyer looked at everything once, then said something that changed the direction completely. This isn't just family manipulation. This is legally actionable. And for the first time, I realized something bigger. I wasn't just going to fix the past. I was going to rewrite everything that came after it. My lawyer didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't say this was complicated. She didn't even pause. She looked at the documents and said, "If we prove intent, your parents didn't just lie. They built a financial structure on it." That was the moment it stopped being a family story and became something I could legally destroy. Her office didn't feel like therapy. It felt like translation, where damage becomes leverage, where truth becomes outcome. I handed her everything. Police report, counselor notes, email threads, scholarship letter, witness confirmations, not one piece. A system. She didn't react emotionally. She organized, stacked, mapped, timeline first, then connections, then intent. They didn't misrepresent you, she said. They relied on that misrepresentation. Relied. That word matters. Because it means the lie wasn't temporary, it was structural. Every major decision, she continued, is justified by the same narrative. Your instability, your unreliability, your risk. Which meant one thing. Everything they built was built on me being broken. Then she opened the file I hadn't fully processed yet. The trust. Assets divided. Control assigned. Decision authority mapped. And every line pointed the same way. Evan. Primary beneficiary due to demonstrated stability. That line appeared more than once. Stability. That word. Built on a lie. I wasn't excluded. That's what made it worse. I was minimized. Contained. Limited access. Restricted control. Framed as protection. They didn't cut you out, my lawyer said. They made sure you could never challenge anything. They didn't cut you out, my lawyer said again. They made sure you could never challenge anything. Can we break it? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Yes, she said, if we prove the narrative was intentionally false. and used to influence the structure. Intent, that was the key. Emails, multiple, clear, consistent, not one mistake, a pattern. Emails, multiple, clear, consistent, not one mistake, a pattern. She initiated most of the narrative framing, my lawyer said. I looked at the emails again, slower, closer, and saw it. Every first move, every redirection, every initial statement started with her. My father wasn't innocent, but he wasn't leading. He was following, refining, supporting, but not creating. It wasn't him. It was her. One email stood out. Short, simple, clear. My mother wrote, "If Claire is clearly established as unstable, everything else becomes easier to justify later." Later. She wasn't solving a problem. She was planning ahead. This wasn't damage control. This was design. There's one more thing, my lawyer said. They've already transferred some assets. Not future, present, active, based on the lie. That strengthens your case, she added. Because now we can prove impact. We didn't need confrontation. We needed timing. Prepare legal challenge, secure all documentation, freeze movement, force response, no emotion, just pressure. They didn't know what I had, but they felt something. My father called more. My mother asked more questions. My sister got quieter, because pressure reveals truth. And without the narrative protecting him, he started slipping. Public, recorded, shared, not controlled, not redirected, real. I didn't need to expose him. He was exposing himself. I sent one message, simple, normal, expected. Dinner this week? Same house, same table, same people. No warning, no explanation. My lawyer sent one final confirmation. Everything is ready. For years, they controlled the story. Tomorrow, they wouldn't. As I closed my laptop, one last document came through. Something I hadn't expected. Something that changed everything again. Because it proved something worse than lies. Evan didn't just benefit from the system, he knew about it. The first thing my brother said when he saw the folder was, "Where did you get that?" Not, "What is that?" Not, "Why are you doing this?" He didn't question the content, he questioned the source. That was the moment I knew. He already recognized it. Everything looked normal. That's what made it dangerous. Same dining table, same lighting, same routine. My mother moving between the kitchen and the table. My father opening wine like this was just another quiet evening. My sister checking her phone. Evan talking too loudly, too comfortably. Like nothing had changed. I didn't interrupt, didn't rush, didn't signal anything. Because the most effective moment is the one no one prepares for. Dessert. That's when it happened. That's when conversations slow down. That's when people stop guarding themselves. That's when I placed the folder on the table. Not slammed, not dramatic, just placed, centered, visible, real. "Where did you get that?" Evan repeated. I looked at him, then at everyone else, then said, "From the part of my life you thought I'd never see." I opened the folder, pulled out the police report, and slid it across the table, to him. He didn't touch it immediately. That hesitation mattered, because it wasn't confusion, it was recognition. Then he read, and his face changed. "What is that?" my father asked, his voice already less certain. Evan didn't answer, so I did. "It's your son." My sister leaned forward. "That doesn't make sense." Exactly, it didn't, because for years, nothing about the story made sense. I didn't wait. Counselor notes, placed next, then another, and another, each one aligned, consistent, undeniable, no explanations, no long speeches, just evidence. because evidence forces silence. That's out of context. Soft, controlled, familiar, the same strategy. I placed the emails next. Printed, highlighted, impossible to reinterpret. Read it, I said. She didn't want to, but she did. And the moment she saw her own words, the room shifted. Because now, this wasn't memory, it was authorship. If Claire is established as unstable, everything else becomes easier. I said it out loud, slowly, clearly. Then looked at her. You didn't manage the lie. You built it. No one defended her, because no one could. This isn't... It is, I said. And he stopped. Because for the first time, he had no version of the story that worked. I placed the letter next. That was my way out. No one spoke. You didn't just describe me. You blocked me. I looked at my father. You knew what that program would do. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. My sister leaned back, slowly, processing, recalculating, because now she was seeing the system too. Then I placed the last documents, the trust. This is what it was for, I said. Now they understood. Because this wasn't about childhood anymore. It was about everything after. My mother didn't cry. She calculated. My father didn't argue. He stalled. My sister didn't defend. She watched. He was the only one who reacted. Loud, fast, uncontrolled. This is insane, he snapped. You're twisting everything. The same words, the same pattern. But this time, they didn't land. Because now, everyone had seen enough. I didn't rush it, because timing matters. I looked at him, then placed the last page on the table. Short, simple, clear, an email. From him. If Claire's already the problem, leave it there. Silence. Complete. Total. Irreversible. He didn't deny it, didn't explain, didn't speak, because there was nothing left. You weren't protected, I said. You participated. That was the moment the system died, not when the truth appeared, when it was complete. For years, I said, you made me carry everything that was his. No one interrupted. Now you can carry it yourselves. For years, I said again, you made me carry everything that was his. No one interrupted. Now you can carry it yourselves. The trust didn't just change. It stopped, frozen, flagged, under review. Because once the lie was exposed, the system they built on it couldn't legally exist the same way anymore. It didn't take weeks. It took days. Because institutions don't respond to emotion. They respond to risk. And my parents had just become one. My father called the morning it happened. Voice tight, controlled, barely. They've paused everything. Everything. Accounts, transfers, authority. Because the moment intent is questioned, control disappears. The same systems they manipulated for years were now examining them. Carefully, legally, coldly. For the first time in my life, they weren't explaining me to anyone. They were explaining themselves. She didn't call. She came. Unannounced. No preparation. No control. That alone told me everything. She sat across from me, still composed, but not in control. You've made your point, she said. That sentence. Small. Dismissive. Familiar. This isn't a point, I said. It's a correction. We can fix this privately, she continued. Adjust things. Make it fair. Fair. After everything. I'm not negotiating, I said. Her expression shifted. Not anger. Something sharper. Realization. Because she understood something now. This wasn't something she could rewrite. He came later. Not controlled. Not confident. Just tired. I didn't think it would go this far. I looked at him. You made sure it did. He didn't argue. because he couldn't. He was the first one to collapse completely, not publicly, but structurally. His business started slipping. Partners hesitated. Opportunities faded. Because the version of him that succeeded was built on protection, not reality. Everything they said about me started attaching to him, naturally, organically. I didn't push it. I didn't need to. Weeks later, the trust was rewritten, not out of fairness, out of necessity, balanced, transparent, accountable, and for the first time, I wasn't minimized. Every major decision now required my involvement, my approval, my signature. The same person they spent years reducing became structurally unavoidable. My mother tried one more time, not loudly, not emotionally, quiet, calculated. We did what we had to do. That was her justification. After everything. No, I said. You did what was easiest for you. Protecting him was easier. Blaming me was easier. Maintaining the illusion was easier. But easy doesn't mean right. All of us, one last time. Same table, different reality. No one pretended anymore. No one redirected. No one explained. Because there was nothing left to control. My father spoke. We can still fix this. I shook my head. You had 20 years. This wasn't a story about forgiveness. It was about truth. And truth doesn't restore what was taken. I stood up. Calm. Certain. Finished. You didn't lose me when I found the truth. I looked at both of them. You lost me when you taught everyone I was someone I wasn't. No hesitation. No turning back. Because closure isn't always reconciliation. Sometimes it's distance. Months later, everything looked stable again. From the outside, the trust adjusted, the structure rebuilt, the narrative corrected, the family. They spent 20 years making me carry his damage. In the end, I handed it all back and walked away with everything they tried to take from me.